It's called Advanced Answering Techniques. So it is three professional people explaining to other people how to answer different questions, a multiple variety of questions. Advanced Answering Techniques.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Answering Techniques. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Josh, and we have two other co-hosts on this podcast that is about taking listener or user questions and answering them in a definitive way. Guys, in the past, and I'm talking to my co-host here, we've basically said there's kind of in our contributors, and I don't want to give short shrift to our other collaborators. We have other collaborators out there, but really we have a big three. I like to think of the big three.
Yeah.
And they are our very steady contributors. Right now, if you were to look at our inbox, you would see not very many questions, but you would see these three represented, one of them twice. That's just so important to us. These relationships that we have with them are so important. As I introduce both of you today, I would like you to just answer if you're going to keep one of our big three contributors in a little cupboard and let them out a couple times a day. Which one would you choose?
Justin.
Caleb.
Justin.
That's Caleb answering, and he says Justin, one of our contributors.
Justin. He's small and he's just in the cupboard.
And Gabe.
I think it's Justin.
It's got to be Justin.
Justin.
It was the only answer that I assumed that we would give. I was interested.
I just thought about Isaac because he is my friend and he lives far away from me, so it'd be cool if he was just in a cupboard.
Right.
But that also doesn't really make as much sense with his name.
And Joy is clearly important to her family.
Right.
They need her.
Yes.
Also, I wouldn't want to keep Joy in a cupboard. I want that out in the world.
In the world.
That's true.
That's one of the. It's like you know with it was a box that got opened. It was a box that got opened, and it was Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm.
And in Pandora's box, they shut it, and they kept hope in. They let all the malevolent, horrible feelings out, all the terrible things, pestilence, violence. But they shut it.
Greed.
Greed.
Avarice.
Parking in a handicap spot.
They let all of these things out. And they shut it once they realized we let all these terrible things out. They shut it. And then guess what? They left hope in the box. Hope didn't get out. But Joy did. Joy's free in the world, running around, having her experiences, taking care of her family. Today we have a question from one of those three, and it is the one that we love to keep in a cupboard. Justin.
Hey guys, I last night had a dream that I was hanging out with two of y'all's younger brothers, and the shorter, older one told me that he was listening to the Milked One in Process. And I said, what is the Milked One in Process? And he said, oh, you didn't know. And it turned out that you guys had changed the name of Advanced Answering Techniques to, the name was now the Milked One in Process. And so I was wondering, why would you change your name to the Milked One in Process? What does that mean? I know in the past I've famously fibbed and told lies, but this, I promise, is true. And I know that promise is probably pretty thin after my record, but I really I had a dream that you guys changed your podcast name to the Milked One in Process. And I was wondering, what does that mean? The Milked One in Process. Why would you name a podcast that? Thanks, guys. I always appreciate it.
He does always appreciate. We always appreciate you, Justin. Thanks so much for sending in this great question.
It's a really great question.
It's a great question.
I'm really glad he got my message.
You sent out sort of a psychic message through the airwaves of the dreamscape.
Correct.
Okay. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what you would say.
Well, you took him out.
You're kind of like a Freddy Krueger visiting
Yeah.
Justin in his dream.
Don't like to think of it in those terms. More of just I can't communicate things that will terrify or excite people. Just things that might confuse
people. Okay. Yeah.
You can't kill anyone in their dreams.
Nope.
Good.
I mean, I
I'm just-
haven't done. I haven't tried, and I wouldn't
Yeah,
try.
don't try.
because of my moral compass.
Yeah. Do you have to be so part of what happens with Freddy Krueger is that he is dead. So I think that's some of how he's able to do what he does. Do you have to be asleep or in some other altered state of consciousness to be able to communicate?
Right. You
something
said
to
you
people.
sent a message. What does
Yeah.
that look like?
How do you do
paint
that?
a picture of that for us?
Yeah. What it means is I'm kind of just sitting at my computer, and I have an app that I got, secret app, from a secret app store that I have access to. And the app allows me to use, quantum stuff,
Right.
Tesseract kind of stuff, and go outside of this dimension and, write out a message or draw a picture even. There's different ways you can do it. You can just draw a picture and send that to someone in their, hopefully it gets into their dreams. I prefer to try to get the dreams instead of just a vision of some kind because I don't want to cause anyone any, sudden, like if they're driving or something. I don't want that to happen.
So
A
they
big
don't
vision.
even have to be asleep, or this is someone who's asleep while they're driving. I see a vision. If you were unsure if they were asleep,
You can choose a box, vision or dream.
Oh, okay. So this is a setting in the app, or just when you compose new message.
Right.
That's like, do
You
you want
hold
this to be a
it.
vision, or should we? It's like schedule with an
it's
email.
basically
You're
scheduling on MailChimp or something.
Yeah.
You're going to schedule this particular message to go out.
Right.
Now or later.
Yep. And so you send the message and then there's a tone and you have to synchronize your brain to the tone. You do that.
How?
And then, it's hard to explain.
It's one of those it's like there's the tone happening and there's a wave form for the tone.
Yeah.
And then you can see where your brain is.
How?
There's a little cursor
Where?
for it. You put on one of those things that reads the blood flow in your prefrontal cortex.
Well,
Okay.
so that is one way they do it.
yeah.
It is pretty
Well, once
invasive.
you get good at it, you
What
don't
I
have
do is
to.
I just use binaural audio,
Yeah.
and it says which frequency I need to tune my brain to, and I choose that frequency, and then on my app, and I put it on Desert Silhouettes meditation.
It's a bit of a process.
And at the right frequency, I press play on that. I have to do it for about 20 minutes. I do that, and I just repeatedly think about the message that I sent digitally, but now also telepathically.
Right.
telepathically. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we
That's-
covered that. So, and so, in other words, 2 weeks in a row, last week you had sort of the definitive answer. And this week you will also have the definitive answer
Right.
of what this means.
because it basically, you have admitted that you have a plan to change the name of the podcast.
I thought this might be kind of a fun way to kind of make this
Spring it on us. Sort of surprise us.
It really is boomeranging back around, and now we have to deal with it, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then let's do this. We'll sort of submit some ideas about what we think it might be, and then I guess you could tell us. Unless I guess it's also possible that Justin, his mind has been so warped by lies that
Right.
perhaps he hasn't received exactly the message.
Oh no, he got it exactly right.
Okay.
That is helpful because it kind of narrows things down. That we don't have to actually explore that.
We don't have to. But I still think it would be a short podcast if we just let you answer. What do you think? What do you think we should do?
Well, the trick is here is that you're assuming that I know what the message means just because I sent it to him.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Okay, so can I ask some questions about the message?
Sure.
Is the milked one in process?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the title that you supplied him with? Did you?
Yes.
Okay. So, what? I mean, I guess what is the milked one?
Yeah. I mean, to me, there's lots of different ways that I thought about that this could go. I mean, just kind of being obvious with it, which, seeing as this is a message from Caleb, is probably not true. Because frequently when Caleb, listeners will remember when Caleb says something on the podcast, there can be a moment where we go, can you kind of unpack that a little bit for us? So this is probably not the case, but I mean, it made me think of obviously cows. Yeah. So possibly this is a podcast in some way related to cows. That, I don't know. I don't know what would have to happen culturally for people to be really interested, for us to go, oh, we've got to get on the cow zeitgeist
Right.
and start and change the podcast's name so that we can meet the cow market. That doesn't seem like something that's happening currently. But I was also thinking, and I thought, cats and dogs have had a real hegemony on the animal zeitgeist, right?
Like pets in particular. Yeah.
And I think that's wrong. I think that shows sort of
Morally
systemic.
wrong.
I think it's wrong for us to be. I think we need to encourage sort of greater diversity in sort of these zeitgeisty animals.
Okay.
And I was thinking, as our population becomes increasingly obese, maybe it will be easier and easier for us to identify with cows. And so maybe there is kind of a zeitgeist thing there. We're on the cusp of a real cultural, vibe shift where suddenly we see cows and we think, yeah, I get what's going on. That's been the problem for so long, is really trying to imagine what's going on in the mind of a cow is basically impossible. Whereas with a dog,
You have a better idea of what's going on in
much better
the
idea
mind
of what's
of a
going on
dog.
in the mind
They
of a
wag a
dog.
tail.
They're communicating with us.
Yeah. I mean,
If they have a tail, they can wag. My dog, no tail, that he can wag.
Right. They do it. The Frenchies, they do it all with ears.
Yes.
It's how they express their emotions, and it's unsettling. And
I sometimes
don't
I
like
just feel like we've really robbed those dogs of experiencing joy.
it seemed like we have.
Yeah, they're nice dogs.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think it's because they just don't expect much out of life.
Yeah. Docking a Frenchie's tail is like putting joy.
Well,
in it.
they're
You
not
don't even have
docked.
to dock it. Oh,
They're not
okay.
docked.
Good
I mean,
for
if
them.
if you did dock a Frenchie, that would be pretty.
You'd
it would
basically be cutting off
devastating.
part of their spine.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is. Yeah. We don't have to get into that.
yeah,
But-
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
been-
putting joy in a cupboard, but that's
Oh.
we don't have to worry about
Put a
that
tail on a
anymore.
dog.
Don't put baby
That's
in the
taking-
corner.
Yeah.
Don't put joy in the
Don't
cupboard.
put joy in
You
the cupboard.
don't wanna do
Putting a tail on a dog is like
Yeah.
taking joy out of a cupboard.
that. If you put
Yeah.
the tail on,
On
the
the
dog.
Putting a
dog.
tail
Oh,
on a
okay.
dog
If
is
we
like
were to
taking joy out of a-
surgically
Yes,
augment a Frenchie
and now
with a true tail.
Yes.
the cupboard door is open.
Yeah.
The veterinarian says as he presents
That's
this
true.
horrible Frankenstein dog monster to you.
And it's a human finger.
Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't.
Is it prehensile still?
No.
No. Oh, okay.
It's just sort of.
So it just functions as a tail.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see if it becomes prehensile over time. Yeah.
Yeah, it could gain that.
There's some more neural pathways that are formed over time between the dog and the finger tail.
Brain is plastic.
Yeah.
So
Brain is plastic. brain is plastic. I will say, Josh, you're. I mean, look, like I said, I don't actually know exactly what the name
Okay.
means. It just rolled off the tongue.
Okay.
Right.
Because
And
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's a less obvious. It could apply to our current podcast,
Right.
which is like
Yes.
advanced answering techniques. That's the milked one.
You're right.
because
Yeah.
there's a promise of an answer,
Mhm.
and there's a promise of we understand that it will be milked.
yeah,
But then the
Yeah.
in process part is like this happening here. We're motioning to the room here.
The room.
Us discussing the stuff, going through all the finer
And
points
just
of
to
a
describe
subject.
Gabe's motion, just for those of you who can't see it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like if you were sitting in front, if you're in a Montessori school, and they have one of the little tables that has a bunch of sand in it, and you're sort of kneeling before it, and you're running your hand over the top of that. That's kind of the motion that he was making.
Or if maybe you've been hanging out with Mr. Miyagi a bunch.
yeah. I was thinking about a bad high five too.
it would be a really bad high five.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like if you were maybe in a feedlot with a bunch of cows, this is kind of the motion
Sure.
you might make over
Yeah.
to pet a cow.
Right.
Yeah.
You're picking out your new pet from a feedlot.
Yeah.
And just want to see how this one handles, sort of thing.
Am I going to be able to? It's a pet. I'm going to want to pat the pet.
Yeah.
How does it pet?
How does this pet pat? So that's what I'm here to answer.
Big question. Yeah, that is sort of the one way I was interpreting it was, yes, we are the milked ones,
Yeah.
and the milk is the question, the
It's a
answer
question.
to the questions.
Yeah.
Right.
The questions are the desire for milk.
The questions are a request. Can I please have some milk?
And then
There we
the
go.
answers
Absolutely.
are the milk. And this is the process.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's in the process.
One thing that's kind of bothering me as you know, I propose that we sort of move towards diversity. We don't focus on cats and dogs. We're trying to get on the real wave of this cow zeitgeist. But then I was like, you know what? That's all. There's already sort of a prejudice inherent in that. 'Cause there are other animals that you can milk. As if we learned anything from Meet the Parents, it's that you
Yes.
can milk anything with nipples.
Anything
Right.
with nipples.
And so, you know, that includes goats and Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and maybe if we were to move into a podcast like that, maybe sort of would be about like trying to see if that's true,
Yeah.
trying to go through the
Exploring.
process of seeing it. Can you milk anything with nipples?
Right.
And maybe sort of the high watermark would be to finally bring Robert De Niro into a milking parlor. And you know, as somebody who works in a dairy, sometimes there are cows where you only milk two teats, and so you have to like tie off there's sort of this half octopod contraption that you attach to the teats. It's because it's 4 instead of 8, and you sort of tie down 2 of so we would do that for Robert De Niro, and then we would attach to his nipples 2 of the milker nozzles.
Or we could contact George Miller in his movie Fury Road. There's a famous scene where there are being milked, and we could just ask him for that equipment and for a size
Okay.
for Robert De Niro.
Yeah, could we get some of the useful contraptions that you developed, which I'm sure he has great attention to detail, so I'm sure he's made these in.
They're real. They work.
They work, and I'm sure that he's made them in sizes that would be suitable
Sure.
for, say, a Robert De Niro.
What size do we think Robert De Niro is? Well, I mean, what are we working with?
could-
6?
There's. His
I didn't think they were number sizes, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I think it's probably in the 2 to 4 range.
If it's not a number,
Okay.
what is it? So like, oh, it's pebble
Letters.
or stone size.
Rice Krispie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is?
I like that. Yeah,
Uh,
actually, sizes that just have to do with different size kinds of rocks.
I mean, rocks.
Sure,
Yeah.
Rock seems tough.
Yeah.
Pebble seems tough. When does a pebble become a rock or a stone?
Well,
I
then
think
we
I
can get
know.
to the bottom of that too.
You can't really say it, but you know it when you see
I
it.
see.
It's one
Yeah.
of those classic things.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a qualitative sort of judgment that
Yeah.
you can make. So, yeah.
I mean, we should probably get a move on if that's going to be the podcast from now on, because Robert De Niro, he's getting old.
Yeah, and he's
You know?
crazy.
We've got a real pipeline to build, don't we? If we want to,
Yeah.
if we want to be able to hook Robert De Niro into that pipeline and
Yeah.
sort of drain the milk from his nipples.
You know, it would be kind of cool. Honestly, that's a good high watermark, I think.
Yeah.
But honestly, collecting milk from other male celebrities could be a very worthwhile venture.
Something
like,
we-
you open up a cupboard and you have little vials.
There's
There's Justin hands you a vial. Leo? You want Leo?
It's refrigerated, of course, so it is a fridge, not a cupboard. It's a cold cupboard, which we call a fridge.
Hey everybody, this is Josh coming in after the fact here. I just wanted to clear up the fact that we're aware that the content on this episode is a lot. We just wanted to make sure that that's in no way an apology or anything like that. We just know it's a lot. We know it's really funny, and so we wanted to let you know that we knew how funny it is and how good it is. And also, I wanted to mention, since I have this opportunity, I hadn't been able to work in on the episode my observations about a brother of ours who, we're talking about why did you do that? Why did you, what are your intentions? And this is a brother who it can be hard to judge his intentions. He has, he suffered kind of a strange accident as a child. And he was such a good fifer. He would play the fife at these sort of old-time reenactments at a place called Joanna Furnace. And they have this big furnace. And they would get that furnace piping hot. And there would be Brewster, my brother, piping away on his fife. He was fifing. And he'd play and he would dance as he played. And he would dance like no one was looking, even though everyone was looking, because he was such a joy to see him fife and dance at the same time. And in one day, this was such a fevered pitch did his fifing reach and his dancing that he got too close to the furnace and burned his eyelids off. And so without eyelids, it's interesting. Humans are. So it's hard to tell what their intentions are. We use eyelids that helps us a lot. People don't have good control over exactly what their eyelids can do and how they react to things. So that was one thing that happened to my brother Brewster, and I know he listens. And hi, Brewster. And he'd be so sad if I had planned to incorporate him into the episode and didn't do it. So sorry about that, Bruce. And we'll see you at Thanksgiving. Bye. So, Caleb, in your estimation, is any of this sort of anywhere close to what you might have been thinking?
I mean, this is fantastic because I think we've gotten to a lot of important stuff today. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of the idea, broach the idea, what if we did call the podcast something different?
Right.
And I thought this might be an interesting way to make that discussion part of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to, so now people get to peek behind the kind of the closed doors.
Yeah.
And the process of the
Yeah.
podcast and some of the discussions we've had. And I think this has been really good. It's honestly what I wanted because I wanted us to discuss it in this way.
Well, and I didn't want to end the discussion. I just wanted to see if any of that was
It's really sounding good
in
to
the
me.
area. Just because I know that Gabe probably has kind of a few directions that he might want to go, some questions he might want to ask, some ideas that he might have had about what could possibly be the meaning of the milked one in process.
I mean, I already offered kind of my best guess,
Okay.
which is that it's sort
Yeah.
of, recontextualizing what we're
Yeah.
doing here
Yeah.
and making it maybe less of an abstract
Yeah.
thing and,
Yeah.
bringing it into that concrete realm
Yeah.
a little
Right.
bit more.
Yours just didn't have the target of the milking kind of
Right.
No.
espoused, and
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
No, it didn't. And I mean, that's something we could address now, I guess, if we want.
Sure, yeah, I'd love
I mean-
to.
Just with this. Sorry, if I could just get an idea of where we're headed. The question is, are we about to censure Gabe for not having included that?
No, I was
in
just
his proposal.
I was just saying I liked Gabe thought.
Yeah,
Gabe thought is good,
Yeah.
but mine had kind of a concrete idea that was attached to it.
Yeah.
And I was when I started to when you were talking,
right.
Josh, I'm pointing at Josh,
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
using
me.
the usual pointing
Usual
gesture.
pointing finger. It's like if you're in a Montessori school and you're sort of like, I want to use this Cuisinart counting system here,
Right.
And you would point to it with your
Right,
finger.
the usual way we always think of pointing, or maybe how a dog might wag its tail.
Sure. Or Mr. Miyagi's asking you to pick that up over there.
Yes. So when you were talking,
That's me.
yep, Josh, I'm pointing normal. So okay, here we go. I started to think of similar thoughts that Gabe was thinking.
Okay.
And so then when Gabe was talking,
Wait.
I was like, wait, these are similar kind of thoughts that I'm having. But then you failed to kind of go the full
Bring it
extent.
home.
So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that. What should the target of the milking be?
I was going to suggest maybe we don't change anything about the podcast, about how we do it, but we just make it our goal to eventually try to, get Robert De Niro in the room.
Into a milking parlor
Yeah.
And
of
this
his
is-
choice, whatever's convenient for him.
And
Doesn't
this
have
is
to-
after we've talked to George Miller and gotten
Yeah,
his helpful machine.
yeah. George Miller's helpful machine. Boy, that could be a book.
I think it could be several books. He's devised several helpful machines in his movies.
And then we get De Niro in the room and we, see what happens.
We see what happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
maybe Ben Stiller can come too and finally be, have his curiosity.
So you have no.
sated.
I mean, look, this is going to be a big proposal. They're very unlikely to take us up on these things unless
We need to incentivize it.
incentivize it or kind of start a movement in like a medical journal that explains how this is part of the problem with men is that they have this built up
You have to sort of release this toxic masculinity
Yes.
through the
Yes. And so that's one of the ways that the health benefits are amazing, and it's this new on the, so we kind of build up a whole scenario, and yes, we're using lies and deceit, but it is for a worthy cause.
Right. You know who we should get on that?
What's that?
Fauci.
Yeah.
He seems ideal. It's medical, that's in his wheelhouse, and
Yes.
it involves massive campaign of lies and deceit.
And did he get his pardon, his pre-pardon?
Yeah, so he could
did?
do this without
No
with
problem.
with
Right.
immunity.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely no repercussions.
We would
Yeah.
be putting our necks on the line.
I would love to see
Yeah.
the mainstream media defend Fauci's Rachel Maddow talk
Yeah.
about how this is
Really good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. Well, it's
It's
combating
good. It
toxic
works.
masculinity.
Yeah.
It works and it's good.
Yeah.
That's what you would say.
She has such a way with words.
You can just hear it in her voice, can't you?
Right.
Really good stuff, Gabe.
I do have a poem I'd like to read. This was kind of me thinking about, Justin's question, why would you do that? Why would you make that change? Just made me think about sort of, understanding other people's motivations. Why are they doing that? And so I was writing this poem about that feeling. It's more about the feeling than the thought. You can learn a lot about your neighbor. There he is at the store. This guy likes veggies. There he is at the brew pub. This guy likes craft beers. He's wearing a Seahawks shirt. This guy likes supporting his team even when he's sleeping in his bed. It might sound like I was like sneaking up and like looking in his window to see him in his bed and to see that he's wearing the Seahawks jersey in his bed, the shirt. It wasn't a jersey, it was just a shirt.
Just a shirt.
With the insignia on it. But that's not that. I wouldn't do that. I have an elaborate system of mirrors. That's how I do it.
Oh. I think I've seen that. I thought it was a sort of Pollyanna thing that you were doing.
So when you said Pollyanna thing, you're thinking of sort
Prisms.
of a bunch of prisms in a room.
Yeah. But it was mirrors. I thought
It was actually mirrors.
using mirrors to make lights on the wall.
Yes. Well, and more importantly, to be able to get lights into my eyes so I can see what's going on.
Bing. Oh, that's what he wears to bed.
Yeah.
And that's what his bed is.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that somebody would love a sports team so much that they want to support them even when they're asleep?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe they're expecting to be dreaming that they're at the game.
It's almost like their shirt has a secret app.
Or his shirt is imbued with quantum energy.
Thanks so much for listening. This has been Advanced Answering Techniques. We'd love to treat your questions this way. If you would send those to advancedansweringtechniques@gmail.com. We're looking for an audio file about a minute in length. Send those along. We'll get them answered right away. Guys, right here at the end, is there anything else we need to deal with?
I actually did have one last thing I wanted to say, which is I was talking to my wife recently, and she said that you can't read in dreams. And I said, how can you prove that? So she said, you can't read in dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that's insane.
That is insane. That's an insane thing to say. How are we going to know?
How are we going to know?
Maybe you can't.
Yeah. And
Gabe's
again,
wife?
he's motioning to my wife
Yeah.
who's in the room.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked this episode to sit in on.
Yeah, I mean, my wife said a funny thing similar, which is, you can't read.
Bye.
Bye.
Why would you do that? Guess the dog got its day. Guess the dog got its day. Guess it's all we can say. Why would you do that? I'm following the train. I'm following the train. Silent march of a parade. Why would you do that? Roots under the teeth. the dog got its day. Guess the dog got its day, yeah. Guess the curve done got away.